I'm going to give it a minute to get warmed up. I do want to mention that this video is brought to you by my supporters, those of you who care about the channel, who have been very generous to me with your time, your resources, finances. I don't want to take that for granted. All of that has been so greatly appreciated. And I have been going through a very interesting time in my life. This is not strictly an ASMR video. This is more like kind of a general overview of some stuff that I've kind of unpacked over the past couple days, and or maybe like the past 2 weeks. I'll be really honest with you, in that time does not carry a lot of meaning for me right now. Maybe sometime in the future. Get my sweatshirt darker or anything like that. Nothing's here. Whatever. Okay. So, back in the mid-90s, there was finally enough accumulated energy that people could start doing like karma trading on a whole new level. So I'm going to try to break that down because it was specific to the mid-90s. I'm going to talk about it in terms of my own personal experience, but in a very vague sense. So I'm not going to give you like personal details about my situation, but I will try to give you like an overview of what I think this overall thing is like. Okay. So, I don't know how many of you remember playing this game, MASH, growing up, where it's like mansion, apartment, shack, hotel, or house, or whatever. But this game, you basically like write out all of these scenarios, and you decide, like, I don't remember exactly how to play, so I'm just going to give you kind of like the gist of what I remember. You then like have to like with your friends like narrow it down. You can go and look up the instructions on Google, but basically that game I think was a feeder into what else is going on, and I think this has to do with goetic practice, and for one, like the second part is that you also do this magic square ritual, which is actually in that book, the children's book that I did a video about earlier on the channel. So you can go watch that. Maybe I'll remember to put something up top, but it shouldn't be that hard to find. I think you can look in like books, or you know that I have playlists and everything's searchable. So, and if I remember, I'll put it somewhere. Anyway, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to get sidetracked. So, people can say whatever they want about Ari Aster's work, but one thing that I will say about Hereditary is it really nails down like the goetic experience, in that everything feels really contrived and fake. You're like, what kind of weird universe is this where everything just lines up like that? And the alienation between the characters, and the ways that they do these horrible things to each other that divides them. And it seems like they're not really in control of their own faculties while they're doing it, right? So, that's what I think is going on. As far as the actual sect, I'm not sure. Probably it's none of my business. Anyway, so then after this happens, you do the mash game and you do the magic square spell. You write it out on a cloth and then you write it out on a leaf. Now, I don't necessarily recommend doing this. As I mentioned, it's in that particular book. If you want to track it down, do it. I'm not going to stop you. But I do invite you to listen to the rest of the video so that you can make up your mind if that's really what you want to do or not, right? So then after this happens, you're going to have a prophetic dream. This is where you go to the trading floor, basically, kind of place. And when you show up there, you get there, and first of all, they tell you that God is your soulmate. So if you did the spell is for a soulmate, like figure out who your soulmate is. And that's how they suck you in, because like that kind of attraction, that bonding is what we crave, right? And they know how to pull your strings like that. So they're going to use something like, do you want to be famous? Do you want to find your soulmate? You might notice like a lot of tarot readings will put stuff like that in the title. You might notice that I don't really do that. This is why. Because it's a really easy way to be controlled by these forces. And we're all, I mean, I'm sitting here talking to you about it. So it's not like I'm immune to that. Obviously I'm not, because I'm here talking to you about it today. So I'm not judging. We're all here doing the human experience thing. Some of us are better at it than others. I would like to think that I'm, you know, giving it my best. Anyway, let's continue. So another part of this is like, they're like, surprise, God's your soulmate, you know, always be thinking about his praise. And then God will tell you what it is that he wants from your life. I don't know if this is really God or not. It looks kind of like an animatronic version of God, so it's not like, you know, it's not really for me to say. What does an elephant look like to an ant anyway? But if your life task only takes up like X amount of your time, then you can fill up the rest of your life with all these other contracts, right? And so let's say, for example, your one life task is to take this one specific photograph at a particular time. Like, you just have to make sure that everything else lines up around it. And because you're working within this particular framework, which is attached to Rubaic magic, this isn't strictly Goetic, but it is Rubaic, and we'll get into that, what I mean by that. I'm talking about Albus versus Rubeus, the white and the red magic. We call it white and red magic because it's really more like human sacrifice magic is like the red magic. And then, you know, using the divine source magic is like white magic. Okay, where am I now? I think I tied up that part. Let me get back to where I was. So then you go out on the trading floor, and there are different sects there. There's all the different kinds of brokers, like different magical factions. There's like Hindus, there's Ludon, there's like like people, there's like basically any kind of magic that you can do. But a lot of it does have kind of a darker focus. And so it's more like to the Rubaic side. Part of that is the motivations behind doing these things and what the result is going to be. So, and I say Goetic, I've said it a couple times now, but I want to clarify at this point that that's been my impression based on the people I was working with. But it could have been a hybridization of a couple of different things, you know, like I'm not going to speak too much on voodoo, for example, but there's the ungan and then there's the bokor, right? That's as much as I'm going to say about it. So getting further into this, really, really messed up stuff has the potential to happen, especially depending on the tasks that people want you to do. Because obviously, like if you're making deals with people, and you're in this particular setting, they're going to want you to do certain things in exchange for whatever, right? So, um, you could get roped into all kinds of stuff. And of course, when are you doing that game? When you're a kid, right? Now, people who are born into these traditions and their families are doing these things on a regular basis and talking about it openly, um, those people know what's going on. But somebody like me, I've been a solo practitioner my whole life. Hi, Clark Smith. It's so good to see you. I've been busy. That's what this video is about. This is a big update. So if you're curious, definitely watch from the beginning too. So what do you do when you get there? Well, certain things need a chaperone to accomplish, like a parent or another adult. If you are under a certain age, and this was the mid-90s, so I would have been in my early teenage years, and like preteen. Uh, you have to find an adult to help you with that if you want to uh, have your intimate relationships set up ahead of time as part of the contract process. And because there was a big rush, it was kind of like when travel restrictions are lifted and everybody travels at once. In the mid 90s, like a big astral travel restriction of some kind was lifted, or finally enough energy was generated by different sources. And we'll talk about that a little bit too, because I'm going to get to that at closer to the end of the video, trying to stay focused and keep it all linear so that it makes sense, because I promise you that I am not going crazy. Okay. So I just had, in my own personal case, I wasn't working with like a parent or guardian like some of the other. I did know one other person, and we kind of talked about it in elementary school. And they did it with their mom. And I did it by myself, and then I got to the astral plane and found a random stranger in a back alley. And I don't know if they were a random stranger or not. And there's some other grooming situations that I could talk about on the astral plane that I really don't feel like getting into in the public forum of YouTube at this time. Especially because things are, like I said, coming to a head right now. So there's some stuff that still needs to like fall into place. And I don't want to say too much about things that I'm not pretty sure are the case in the situation. So, yeah, really messed up stuff happens. I think that a lot of the energy for this particular travel boom, shall we call it? We'll call it a travel boom. I think that's about as accurate as I can get with it right now. I think a lot of that energy was generated through ritual CSA. You know what that acronym means if you're on YouTube. And this is not specific to any ethnicity. This is not specific to any magical sect. Like I said, it's albus versus rubeus. Rubeus can be like your casual sex magic all the way down to like the worst of the worst that you can think of. Probably not a good idea to try to go there, honestly. Well, I'm sorry, I keep hitting my microphone when I scratch my face. Sorry about that. So there was a certain place that started operation under the current management in the mid-90s around this time. And of course, people are using all kinds of misery mills to generate energy this way. And you can walk into a place and kind of feel the energy sometimes, depending on if you have interacted with it extensively or not, how attuned to it you are. And one thing that will happen with this ritual abuse is that there will be an initial interaction between the person and the target. I'll call them target, not victim. I don't like the word victim. It implies powerlessness, which might be the case, but I think it's important to keep that window open for yourself in case you need to jump out of it. So what happens is there's this initial incident, and the incident itself may or may not be actually that bad. But what happens is then they're able to like use this alchemical process. And I could talk about the terms that I often use to refer to these things, but I don't want to be too specific because I don't, again, like there's some stuff going on that still needs to kind of unfold. I don't want to say too much. I just want to say enough that people get an idea of what I'm talking about. Okay. And my contractual obligations in my own situation, as far as I can tell up to this point, have been fulfilled with a range of success. I didn't hit all my marks perfectly by any stretch of the imagination. As I mentioned before, all the people that I was dealing with were actually talking to each other in physical space and communicating in physical space about their plans ahead of doing this. And I didn't have that. And the person that I was dealing with was somebody that I only really knew on the astral plane and maybe chatted with on instant messenger, and was also talking to through the Ouija board. Yes, it's a very complex situation. So I'm not sure. Like I made some deals apparently that were really, really bad for other people this time around. And right now I've basically been separated from like everyone. Like literally even my roommate cannot talk to me right now. And I'm going to leave it there because I know that people are watching this. So, but anyway, so I think that covers all of the salient points. And if you have any questions, please let me know in the chat. Or if you're watching the replay of this, please let me know down in the comments if you want to know if I left anything out or if there was anything that was unclear. I did leave a lot of things out of this video because, like I just mentioned, there's stuff is happening right now. But yeah, I hope that all of you are doing well and that you're staying safe. Hug your loved ones every chance you get. Okay. Hi, Kara. Thank you so much for coming. It's good to see you. Um, but yeah, so if you have any questions, let me know. And I invite you to watch the replay from the beginning. Uh, I don't know what I'll be doing next on this channel because of how things are setting up to be. But I will keep everyone informed. I do have the music channel also, and I've uploaded like a bunch of video stuff over there. So, you know, check out my new series and stuff like that. And big hugs to everyone. And I look forward to seeing you again soon.